Spring is in full swing here in northern New England, and the fruit trees are starting to bloom.
Last year, we reaped the rewards of a decent fruit harvest from the pollinators that existed on this property already. This year, we wanted to see if there was a difference if we put in a beehive.
We took a class over the winter to learn all about beekeeping, and that helped us pick this location for the hive. The ground slopes upwards towards the back, which blocks the winds from the north side, and the plantings on the east and west also provide some shelter. There's full exposure to the south, and it also points the bees right in the direction of the orchard.
It's also high enough away from the grass that when we come by with a mower, we don't get the face full of bees as they make a beeline to the flowers. Here's how the project came together.
The project started back in early spring, with us taking a few measurements using a tape measure and a 4-foot level. We worked our way down the slope and across to the landing where we wanted the platform to sit. We drew a simple sketch in our notebook and then headed inside to use SOLIDWORKS for Makers to build a 3D model of the terrain. We transferred each of our measurements into a single 3D sketch. First, drawing a horizontal line that represented the 4-foot level, and then a vertical line that matched our measurement. With all the lines sketched in the right direction and fully dimensioned, we could draw a few simple splines through key points in the sketch and use them to sweep a simple surface to approximate the terrain. We also blocked in basic shapes to represent the fence posts and a large shrub we'd need to avoid. From here, we could start laying out the pressure-treated lumber. SOLIDWORKS has great tools for designing things like this. It's called weldments, and we use it every time we're working with dimensional lumber. It actually works great with any material that has a constant cross-section. We can easily toggle between different sizes, and even change the corner treatments from mitered to butt joints. It also automatically keeps track of the quantities and cut lengths we'll need for the project, which is huge because it lets us know exactly how much lumber to buy. We worked our way up the terrain, building the base platform as high as we needed, and then turned the corner and worked our way up the staircase. With the terrain hidden, you can see all of the lumber we'll need to process, and with it shown, you can see how much earth we'll need to move.
To make it easy to cut all the pieces to the right length, we made a quick cut list drawing. The automatic table shows item numbers, quantities, and lengths, and it's easy to reference in the field, which is where we headed next. After marking things to length, we cut everything using a circular saw and a speed square. And since the saw blade wasn't large enough to cut the 4x6 in one pass, we'd rotate the piece and make multiple cuts. We labeled each piece to match the item number on the drawing, and then marked items off once the full quantity was cut.
Then we headed over to the site and started to prep for the first layer. Getting this one perfectly level in all directions was critical, so we spent a fair amount of time fussing with the terrain and getting things just right. We checked for square and drove in 6-inch timber screws through pre-drilled holes. To secure this layer to the ground, we first cut 2-foot lengths of 1/2-inch rebar and then drilled holes in the 4x6s. We placed a speed square near the hole and sighted down it to keep the hole plumb in 2 directions. Then we used a 4-pound hammer to drive in the rebar.
We repeated this process to build up a total of 4 layers, always anchoring the back of each one down to the ground. Then we drilled holes in the front and sides to rebar the layers together. In most cases, we drilled all the way through, so the rebar would also extend into the ground. But up here, we had a boulder to contend with, so we cut this one short.
As we worked our way up the hillside, the process was enjoyably repetitive, where we'd screw together a few pieces to create a layer's subassembly, check for level, and then drill for rebar and hammer it in place.
About halfway through the build, though, we made a small design change. Instead of keeping the base as one large layer, we decided to create a step down for the beehive to rest on. This will let us stand a bit higher than the hive and make it easier to lift the frames out when we do our inspections, especially for someone short like me.
Thankfully, we could make just one cut and flip the L-shaped piece around to create the lowered area. In doing so, we created a joint where the long end of the piece was not supported by the piece below. So instead of only relying on a few screws to carry the beam, we screwed in a support block below. With all the wood in place, we backfilled the structure. Where possible, we used dirt, but to extend the life of the wood, we always held it back a few inches. Then we lined the dirt with plastic bags from our pellet stove and filled the rest of the space with crushed stone. Tamping things down as we went, and as a final step, should minimize any future settling.
Back in the house, we assembled our beehive. It's a kit we bought from Primal Bee, and the foam panels and oversized frames go together really easily. This design helps the bees spend less time trying to regulate the temperature in the hive during hot summer days and cold winter nights, and should give them a much better chance of surviving our long, cold New England winters.
It's almost as tall as Chinlu, but it's really lightweight, and with a fresh coat of paint, it's almost ready for the bees. The last thing to do is secure it to the platform so high winds or the occasional curious animal doesn't knock it over.
Now for the most fun and slightly nerve-wracking part, adding the bees. We suited up in our protective gear and opened the package. It's 3 pounds of bees plus a queen. The queen comes in her own little box that keeps her separate from the rest of the bees, giving them time to acclimate to her. We positioned the box between 2 frames and tried to use a bit of tape to hold it in place. But as nothing seems to stick to wax, we mostly relied on friction to hold her steady. Then we could pour the rest of the bees, and remarkably, most of them settled right into the hive and went to work tending to the queen. As it was still early spring, and very few flowers had yet to bloom, we gave the bees a bucket of sugar water to eat, and then closed things up.
If you're new to 3D modeling or to beekeeping, we hope this video inspired you to design something that suits your needs.
This was a fun project, a lot of hard work, but completely worth it. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on our next make.